And I'm going to be very annoying and start walking around the room. A little introduction to me. My name's Rick Brunt. I am Head of Agriculture at the Health and Safety Executive. I can keep talking while you put these jackets on, that's fine. Yeah, just... Right, I've got to put a jacket on as well, sorry. Mr. Ford's just told me that I've got to join the party. A little bit about me. I am Head of Agriculture at a Health and Safety Executive, a position I've had for the last 4 years. I don't know how to put a high vis on despite that. What gives me the right to stand here and talk to you about agriculture? My background, some of you will have heard this before, I started work on a dairy farm when I was 15. So I lived next door to a farm and I started work on a dairy farm, and that was my first real introduction to working life. And it was brilliant, and I thought, this farming life, this is for me, I'm really enjoying this. By the time I was 17, the farmer that I was working for, I had to give up the tenancy, and a new farmer moved in. Some of you may recognise the farmer's name. His name was Trevor Oakes, his son is Michael Oakes, and I was out of a job. No hard feelings, Michael. So I did a few other jobs in the sort of rural industries. I did a bit of tree felling. I won't show you now, but if you want to see the chainsaw scar, yes, I've been there, done that, because I was stupid too. I probably still am in some ways, but I've learnt a lot of lessons on the way. I then went off and I did a degree in agriculture at Y College, and I left there and I went working on farms, and I thought I wanted to be a farm manager or something like that. Various things didn't quite fall into place, and somebody said to me, have you seen this job at the Health and Safety Executive? And I'm like, what, me? Health and Safety? And it was fascinating, and it said, do you want to go and be an agricultural inspector? And I signed up and I joined, and I spent 5 years inspecting in the southeast, just working on farms. And I went from there to a national group in Nottingham, and I worked on machinery standards for agriculture for 7 years, trying to make the machines safer for us. Did a few other things in HSE. I've moved around a bit, and then I came back to the job I've been after for the whole of my career. They don't use the title anymore, but I like to think of myself as Chief Inspector of Agriculture. That, to me, is the thing I really want to focus on, an industry that I really believe in. So, in amongst all that time from leaving college to now, done like lots of people do, I've got kids, they've grown up. My 17-year-old, who's now 18 at university, but 18 months ago, 17-year-old boy, he's looking for work. He's doing all this. He's chucking out his CV, every chip shop, every pub, everywhere he can go. And he's demoralised because nothing's coming back. And if there's parents in the room, you know how that feels. You want to see your kids doing well. And he came in one day and he said, Dad, it's fantastic. He said, I've got a job for the summer. I'm like, brilliant, son, where is it? He says, it's on the dairy farm up the road. I'm like, oh my God, please don't. Now why, what I've just told you about agriculture and where I've come from, why would that be the reaction in the back of my head? I was going to move on to a slide, but actually I'm going to do something real time, because this is why I have that reaction. This is my work email, 12:52 today. An email message came in from one of my colleagues up in Leeds, currently investigating a fatal accident on the farm in Bradford that happened 2 days ago. Somebody's been crushed by a piece of machinery. Unfortunately, the role I have, this is what I see of agriculture every day, every week. Let me translate that through into some numbers for you. What does it look like for me? What do I see? These are the fatal injury figures in agriculture. Annual average, 32 deaths a year. 32 people. That's getting something like one a fortnight, one every 10 days. And those come across my desk in just the same way as I've read you that message that came in this afternoon. What I find even more worrying about this is if we start looking and unpicking some of these figures, and I won't go through them all. We've got one at the bottom there, contact with moving machinery. You probably can't see the fine print, but that was a Pto fatality. Somebody killed on a Pto. That was February last year down in the West Country. 1st of August 1957, let me repeat that, 1st of August 1957, I wasn't even born then. Legislation came in saying, you've got to guard Ptos. 60 years later, we still see people being injured on them. One of those that was killed by vehicles was a 3-year-old who was run over by his own father. Tragic when it happens. 1958 was the first legislation about children in farming, and we still see those sort of injuries. So that is why I end up with this very jaundiced view of the world, and this is something that I want to see getting better. Let's not forget what I talk about is fatalities, because that's a number that we know and we see, and it's fairly reliable and it works well for us. Those other figures I put up, the best estimates, 15,000 workers a year suffering from a work-related illness in agriculture. 13,000 non-fatal injuries to workers each year in agriculture. That is a massive toll on anybody's business. That sort of level of injury, people losing time, people not being able to work, that hits their business. Now, what a lot of people will ask me is say, is it getting any better? Because when I joined HSE in 1989, that number of fatalities was running at around about 55, 60 deaths a year. We've gone 55, we're down to 32. It sounds like it's getting better. But I talk to our statisticians and they say the way you've got to look at this isn't about absolute numbers, because we know there's fewer people working in the industry now. So with those fewer people working, what does it actually look like? And this is what it looks like when you do it per 100,000 people working in the industry. If you can't read the bottom axis, that goes back to 1981. So we're heading towards 40 years of statistics that are showing us not a lot has changed. On average, 10 people per 100,000 in agriculture every year are killed. If you can see that little bit at the bottom, the last 5 years, it looks as if it's starting to dip. And our statisticians, or mathematicians as I prefer to think of them, they do wonderful things with the numbers, and they say, we think you can say there's a sign of improvement. And that to me is brilliant. If you carry that line on it the way it's going at the moment, it will take you about 40 years to get it down to where construction is now. Construction has made a massive improvement. Construction used to be the worst industry in the country. I'm afraid now it is agriculture by a clear distance between that and waste and recycling, which is the next one. So what does it look like? Tom, would you like to assist me with that? Because what does those numbers look like in practice? We'll now explain what these jackets are all about. Tom.
Okay, we've given you all a yellow jacket today, really to help publicise the fact that you're in this meeting today, and also to give us an opportunity to take out what you're going to hear today into the wider conference. But also, some of you, when you came in, would have been given an orange jacket. Now, anyone who's given an orange jacket, if you could put that on now, please. Unless you've already done it, I can see. Come on. Anyone else with an orange jacket? There's a significance between yellow and orange jackets. What we're trying to say is that if you look at the statistics, it's roughly about 20-25% chance that over the next 5 years, everybody in this room suffers about a 25% chance of having either an injury or an illness which is going to keep them out of the business for about a week. Now, if you just think about how would you manage if you weren't in the business for a week, or how would your business manage? And I think a lot of you would actually say, not very well. And I think this is a very sort of graphic and good way to sort of illustrate the fact that we all face risks in our businesses, and they are very real risks, as you can see by the number of orange jackets, just by looking around the room. But the thing about health and safety, and the things that we're going to talk about later on today, is that there's nothing inevitable about accidents. Accidents happen for the same reasons year in, year out. And health and safety can be managed. You can manage your risk profile, and you can reduce it. And part of what we want to do today is try and get that message across, not just to you, but we want you to actually to help spread that message out into the wider conference, so that everybody who didn't come to our session this afternoon has an opportunity to hear that message. So when you go out after the session, you go into tea break, keep your jackets on. And when people talk to you, just say, well, I'm wearing it because health and safety is an issue, but it's an issue that can be managed, and we can reduce our profile, and we can make things better in very easy, practical, cost-effective ways.
And I think that's really important, that the jackets you're now wearing, I asked our statisticians to run this for me, this simulation, and they said of this number of people working in farming, 27%. Matt's going to talk shortly about some research we've done which involved phoning over 1,600 farmers. 39% of those people we spoke to said in the last 5 years they'd had an accident on their farm. 39%. So it's a significant number. The thing that really frustrates me, and the point that Tom has alluded to, is that it is straightforward to avoid most of these. There is nothing inevitable about them. If we start looking at the sort of things, I look at it from a legal point of view. That's my job. I'm a regulator. I'm a law enforcer. If you look at something like quad bikes, head injuries from people coming off quad bikes, anybody that's ever been killed by head injury wasn't wearing a helmet. Very simple, very easy precaution. Training for quad bikes, you'd be surprised how much it's needed. It is a legal requirement. Maintaining a quad bike. If those three things, helmet, maintenance and training, would probably reduce a massive percentage of quad bike injuries. Children on farms. I've still mentioned that we get children injured and killed on farms. Said it's nearly 60 years since the legislation came in saying we could do something about that. I'd be even more challenging than that and said, we're in the 21st century, we're talking about modern professional businesses. What are children doing in the workplace? It's a controversial one. I know it's a difficult one, but if you really want to be serious about it, that's the way we should be focusing. That one, the result of something hitting overhead power lines. Most of the deaths we get from overhead power lines are where something has been stacked next to the pole, a stack of straw underneath the power lines, and that's the consequence. Single contact, up to 33,000 volts, property loss, injury, death. And yet the very simple solution is don't build your stack there. And the only other thing we've never yet heard with a power line incident is someone saying, it wasn't there yesterday. Yeah. You know where they are, you know they're there, and it's very easy just to avoid them. Livestock accounts for a lot of the injuries we see on farms. Those that are doing it well have good handling facilities, both fixed and mobile, and they are relatively cheap, cost-effective, simple solutions, and it's part of making your business more effective and more efficient. If you need to find advice about it, I am yet to see an accident or a death that comes in where I can't go to HSE's website, for example, and say, there's the answer to your question. There's the thing that would have prevented it. There's what the law requires, and there's the solution. So that left me, as head of agriculture, with this bit of a dilemma that I've come back in. Nothing's changing. The causes of accident, the causes of injury are exactly the same. All the advice and information is there. So why aren't people actually doing something about it? What's the blockers? So what I did is within HSE, I've commissioned a piece of research to give me some insight into the attitudes to risk. It's a really big piece of work, and Matt's going to try now to condense it into about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit more about it. So, Matt.